All right, well, James, here we are. We just found out that we're practically neighbors, which is pretty crazy. But no, I wanted to have you on. So you're running the American Society of Home Inspectors, and I know we talked a little bit before. We obviously lined this up, and it's exciting to see kind of what you're doing with it. I know you have your hands full, but for those that don't, and I'm starting to like shy away from this, like give us your background story because I don't
Sure.
know. I don't know, maybe I just have been doing it too much, but just to give people some perspective on how you got where you are, give me the Cliff Notes version of James' path to running the American Society of Home Inspectors.
So it's incredible you bring that up. I have a very unique background, I think, compared to most people in association management. I've been fortunate enough over the close to 20 years, been in educational and business leadership positions. I graduated from the University of Illinois and was able to connect with Kaplan at that time, who had started this small, they had acquired a tutoring center called Score Educational Learning Center. So I helped launch one of those centers in a suburb here of Chicago and worked with them for a while. Then went back and got a business degree and worked with and was recruited out of that to launch centers for a foreign language company that want to revolutionize how and when American children learn foreign languages. So got a lot of work both in operations and education that way, learned marketing and sales at both of those. And my most recent endeavor prior to right after I did the foreign language startup, I also worked with Sylvan Corporate, worked with schools, and I was able to work with a number of not-for-profits, but not necessarily in that space itself. Was fortunate enough to launch a division for the foreign language startup at that time where we actually took our curriculum, our teachers and product right to schools, and they kind of would outsource their foreign language teaching from a pre-K through 8th grade level to that company. Left that company and started from the ground up, was hired by a large Australian company called Navitas, a degree granting university or college that would teach courses in music business and audio engineering. So my background is fantastic because prior to working with experts in the industry and home inspection, I was actually working with Grammy winners and people who produced some of the major hits we hear on the radio and that are still there. So I keep a lot of friends in that industry. One of the coolest moments before joining association management was to say that I had the Grammy Award winning drummer for the Nine Inch Nails, the creator of Pigface, was directly reported to me as my chair of my music business program.
No kidding.
Yes. So I've had quite a ride. And what's interesting was I looked into, once again, moving into a specter or a space where I could continue to impact communities, make differences in people's lives. And the American Society of Home Inspectors was just a natural fit. Most of our members are small business owners who are trying their best to not only make sure they're a true advocate for the consumer, they better their communities by volunteering to coach their children's little league teams. They really are the fabric of our society, and they really are the ones that power us as Americans. So it's been incredible to make that transition into this nonprofit space, work with membership, grow membership, retain membership, and offer amazing educational opportunities for our membership. And so I loved it. That's a little bit of my background, how I ended up here at the American Society of Home Inspectors.
It seems like a normal trajectory. I mean, yeah, man, it's really interesting. I think the coming from that whole perspective, it is pretty crazy when you start to layer that on top of each other, like
Sure.
how it's almost a perfect, match for what you're doing.
Right.
It's really interesting. So did you pursue like the American Society of Home Inspectors? Like why home inspectors?
So what had happened was I was looking to make a difference again, and was looking at some places that had schools, believe it or not. So American Society of Home Inspectors also has a school where we teach people the science and art of being a home inspector. And I had come and interviewed with the board about working with the school to consult and kind of help it get to where it needs to be. After our conversations, they came to me and said, hey, we love your 90-day plan, your strategy of how you want to approach the school. We have this opportunity where, we have a wonderful executive director who's on the verge of retirement. How would you feel about stepping in and actually overseeing the whole organization? So I went back and looked at things and understood exactly, did my own vetting of the association and organization itself, and said, hey, this is a wonderful fit, with the focus that they have on empowering members, creating membership value, building programs of educational excellence. It just felt right. And so it's incredible now because I get to oversee both the organization, the American Society of Home Inspectors, our what we call the ASHI School. ASHI is the acronym, which we refer to for the American Society of Home Inspectors. So we have the ASHI School, and we also have relaunched the ASHI Foundation in the last year too. So it's been fantastic to be part of a multi-tiered approach for an organization that is 42 years old and really defined a profession. Before the American Society of Home Inspectors entered into the landscape, most people were just having someone who seemed to know, an uncle who knew a little bit about homes, or an engineer cousin would come and check out a home before somebody purchased it. But the American Society of Home Inspectors, we say we are the standard. We create the standards for home inspection that most states have now adopted and used, and we were the first national organization to present this burgeoning profession a place for people to network, but also to start to define exactly what this profession contains and set a benchmark for the industry. So it's been a fantastic organization. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, you guys are doing some really, really cool things. Your background is so fascinating in terms of how you got here. So I'm just going to ask you, like, your approach to the role, coming from your background. Like, do you kind of wear more of a consultant hat in terms of how you approach it, or are you like building a business? Like, how are you kind of how do you go to bat every day in terms of your mindset on the organization?
That's a great question, Stephen. I think that when I first came in, I looked at it as being a consultant and just kind of seeing how the inner workings of this organization are. Associations were very new to me. So one of the things I did immediately was get an ASAE, American Society of Association Executive membership. I've attended a few of their annual conferences, the Big Ideas Conference just this past March, I think it was in Colorado Springs, and I'm going to the annual conference in Columbus in August. So I looked at it that I have this outsider perspective, but I also felt that I needed to learn how associations have continued to grow and find some colleagues I could work with that have been in this space for a number of years. I do look at it as running a business. Not-for-profit is a tax status. It's not a business model, right? So you have to look at how things work and ensure that we are doing things to enhance our reputation, but also make sure that we are a viable organization for the next 3 to 5 years. And so that's kind of how I game planned it and mapped it up. So in my mind, I made out here's what I want to do in the next 3 years, and kind of build out my each year, and then my months and my weeks based on that. Obviously, you have to have some flexibility in there for things that are going to come up or changing trends that may adjust. But you should always have a plan of attack, but be flexible enough to realize that you're going to need to adapt your plan as new variables enter into an equation.
Yeah, I love it, man. So for me, right, not ever having run an association, I always look at them and I think, from the outsider looking in, like I always approach it, especially as I've begun to work more with associations, it's like, what's in it for me as a member, right? If I'm a member. And, from my perspective, it's always like, okay, if I was thinking about it, it would be the network for sure. Right? The networking and all that jazz, and the education, right? I mean,
sure.
And when I go on your website, and I see kind of the history of what's been done. I mean, I could definitely, with your background, only imagine what is to come. But since you've been there, what are the key things that you've kind of focused on? Like, what is really working to not only grow membership, but retain membership? And I guess the second part of that question is, what do you think that formula needs to be for you guys to grow and move forward?
It's a great question. So one of the things that I did, what we found was working was education. People love our live educational events, whether they are delivered at a chapter level or our national annual conference, which we bring anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 attendees every year. We found out that was one of our strengths. One of the things that I did was, with my background, I kind of looked at both our website and our educational portal. So a couple of things things that we are looking at doing is we're in the middle of completely redoing our website. I did a member survey, which we incentivized members to participate in the survey. So, out of, at the time, over 8,600 members, we had something, I want to say 1,600 or 2,000 responses of people who were able to give us feedback on the website's current state and where they would like it to go. So we also, in that survey, were able to find out some of the things they loved about our educational portal and some of the areas where they would love to see some improvement. One of the things that my background brings is creating true online educational opportunities. So we've launched a series of live webinars, something that ASHI's never done. Right now, we've been focusing on, they get the ASHI continuing education credit for it, which will add on to their, which are some of their membership requirements in order to stay a member. But the one really incredible thing we found about it, we're able to focus on things like business and marketing on these live webinars, something that our membership is seeking and they want, but in their limited time to focus on self-improvement, a lot of them are going to want to become experts in the technical side. So we have those available online, but these live webinars give them a chance to talk to people. The last one we did was a fantastic deep dive, which started from, what are Google ads, to how do you manage this, and how do you, things for like even the My Business Pro, just kind of expanding their minds a little bit about what they need to do and how they want to approach it, and how they need to look at the online space as an opportunity for them. One of the interesting things for our membership, I think a lot of associations are in the same boat, is that for myself, I'm managing a team of baby boomers, the forgotten generation of Gen Xers. We've got millennials, and we also even have some Gen Zs who are entering into the workforce. But at the same time, they're also entering into the profession. We have an aging membership. The reason why that is, home inspection is typically a second or sometimes even third career. If you look at our board of directors, we have some who, very few who were brought into the profession by an uncle or a dad or a grandfather, but realistically, most of them have had backgrounds in engineering or construction or contract work, and or consultants. We've even had a gentleman who's worked at NASA who's made this a second or third career. So because of that, we tend to skew a little older, because most people are finding their second or third careers in their 30s, sometimes early 40s, depending on who the person is. So we've shifted that. So one of the things we focus on is continue that focus on education. One of the things we have to keep in mind is we're at a unique period in history with the technological innovations we've had over the last 20 years. Generations are being redefined at a much quicker pace than we've ever had before. So creating a membership that offers value to people who are across 4 generations is a wonderful challenge to face. But the one thing that I found out is that all 4 generations crave community, which is why associations are there and why associations matter. However, how the different generations define community is different based on their experiences, both interacting, both from when they started school to their forays into the professional world. And but community is community. How you define it is different based on generation. So the challenges are, how do we incorporate how everyone defines community to ensure that each subset is getting what they need from a community environment? So that's one of the challenges we're facing right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we could do a whole deep dive on that at some point. It's the whole age thing is fascinating to me. Also, even in the business community, I deal a lot with B2B companies, and it's all the same, right? There's this weird thing going on. And like when I look at like Home Inspected, what you guys are doing, the really cool part about it, like, so I'm 44. A lot of my peers are, they're all over the map, just like you mentioned, but my closest friends are in my age category, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. And that experience that a lot of them have, and I can imagine in home inspection, like that level of when you had to do it and make it go and pay attention to certain details without the technology, there's a certain level of like, I don't know, there's a way that it's done from a the old way, right? That just there's some type of aspect to it that works really well. And if you can blend it with the younger generation that understands how to kind of tie in the technology,
Sure.
man, it can be amazing. But what often happens is you get the older generation that's like they're afraid to step up, or they just clash. You know, the younger guys think we're just going to get this technology and run and knock all you guys out of business.
Right.
The older generation's like, you guys aren't doing it right.
Right.
But when they come together and share those ideas, man, that there's some, it is so, I mean, I've seen it time and time again. Like the impact when that happens is so significant. It's just incredible. You know, the other thing that I like what you're doing, and your background is perfect for this. I mean, the whole course movement. I mean, you lived it, but that whole online course movement, to do it inside of an organization, inside of an association, really powerful, man. And the other thing that you guys have on your website is, and I'm sure you're gonna, blow this out even more. Sounds like with the new website, but a lot of the marketing support, that you guys have on there for your members. I mean, that's super valuable. I mean, it really, it's the little things like that where you look at them and say, how can we, really help you guys grow individually that, makes being a part of an association. I mean, the value oftentimes is incredible when you kind of lay those things out. So let me ask you your perspective on like the new website and what you guys have now. How much of that is forward facing? Like if I'm not a member, like how much do you guys push out there to attract new members? And then how much do you guys keep behind, for lack of a better term, like a paywall?
Correct. No, I agree. And that's where we are. So we redefined who are we trying to, who is this website serving, right? So we figured that there are four constituencies in some form or fashion that will use the website. The obvious one is current members, right? That's the most obvious. The second is prospective members. The third is consumers, because there's a number of non-affiliated, home inspectors out there. So why does it matter that a consumer for this once in every 7 years part of their life use somebody from ASHI in order to make the decision on who's going to, inspect the potential house that they're going to buy.
Yeah.
So it's consumers and also referral sources for home inspectors. For us, the largest is typically realtors, right? Realtors handhold most buyers through the process, and they will be the ones who offer up recommendations, whether it's going to be if you're going to move that house, you need to get something mitigated. Here's my guys, or, you need somebody to help you with the mortgage. I know a couple people, you need somebody who's going to help you with the home inspection. Here's a few people you can reach out to. So we looked at those four different segments and figured out what do we need to do in order to ensure that we get the right amount of content on the website to attract all of those four unique constituencies, right? Because they're each unique constituencies. So to attract members, I think that one of the things that we're looking at doing is reformulating how we message what are the values that ASHI membership provides, right? The other thing is, even with the existing membership, it's not a given that they stay. Every year there's a renewal, right? So you're always trying to keep them going too. So you have to balance. What do we offer behind this, what you said, the lockbox or the paid wall? You have to have enough there that keeps them wanting to come, right? And be like, I need to keep my membership. But you want to also tell your story in such a way that you offer, quips and so for instance, our standards of practice are available to everyone, right? We have that available to everyone who was wanting to do it. Now, behind our paywall, we have a course on how to absolutely make sure you understand the standards of practice, or how you implement the standards of practice. But the standard of practice are there for people to understand and read through and get, so they know what ASHI has created and what ASHI has been the forebearer of bringing these standards out to the general public and to the overall industry. So we're working on what is it that we give. Now, my background, like we talked about, it's interesting, is to quote one of my music business chairs, Martin Atkins, in the music industry, was that the world changed. The CDs got crazy. Some say the boy bands killed it with making people buy these whole CDs with only 2 or 3 songs people wanted. And the industry and the consumers rebelled, and it changed on its head. And you had Napster come and had to rethink about how basically people are stealing music. But what they figured out is if you push enough of your free stuff for the music industry, that people will come to the live shows. because that's an experience that you can't get no matter how you got the music. So a lot of bands started releasing singles and things for free and pumping up the actual events to bring them in. Similarly here, one thing that we do is that the inspection world, which we have, it's every January, third week. It's been going on for years and years and years and years. We use that to show people what ASHI's in-person education is about. We bring in a number of prospective members who then join ASHI because that is an experience like no other. You understand, you get technical expertise, you get to network with, industry leaders. You also get to talk to manufacturers. We have an exhibit hall that is probably the largest, one of the largest exhibit halls that I've ever seen in my, background and attending conferences and things like that, for how many we bring in. And it's not just people who are exhibiting for the sake of exhibiting. We're looking for people who will actually partner to ensure that people can be more successful at their businesses or do what they need to do. We have everyone from, drone providers to people who have created like vehicles that you attach cameras to go into crawl spaces. It kind of ties in with what you talked about with technology, right? So every generation will embrace technology when there is a need or necessity for it, right? So you can't just push technology saying it's going to work. And I'll give you an example of that. So we see that a number of our baby boomer home inspectors have actually jumped on the drone bandwagon. The reason being because they don't want to climb up ladders anymore, get up on top of that roof.
Yeah.
But with a wonderful drone with a really good camera, they can see everything they need to do, still get the pit and take the pictures, type it up, write it into their reports. And so they will still be able to service their clients in a way that, the cool thing is with the drone, you can zoom in, zoom out, and you'll feel much more comfortable than when you're standing up there anyway. So we've seen that, the embrace of that technology because it makes sense. It fills a need. It fulfills a desire for them to offer the best service for their client while dealing with the realities of risk aversion as you get older and wanting to get up on top of the roof, and also just safety measures too, right? It allows them to be able to inspect roofs and not worry about whether there's ice up there or if it's rainy, if it's slippery, because now they have a drone that's able to get up there and do it with the, inclement weather is not as big of a factor if they're not in a live, rain or weather, thunderstorm or something like that. The day after or so, they can get up there without worried about if they're going to slip off a roof or hurt themselves. So you see that start to happen even across all generations.
Yeah. Do you guys consider them those? Are they special vendors? Are they partners? Like, how do you guys? That's really interesting. How do you treat them? Like, would they be sponsors? Are they special vendors? Like, what is that relationship like?
So, really based on the amount of value they bring to the membership, we have affiliates who are, affiliated with us. We had something called an endorsed program, but we're moving away from that because my team isn't large enough to say that you get 100% guarantee from ASHI on anything, because it's very difficult for us to be able to claim that, just with the risk of doing business with anyone. But we have partners. We have things with our preferred partners. We have the lunch and learns, so people, or grab and go. So people kind of grab their meal and then one of the, partner vendors will give a discussion on what they do. We also hear the feedback from our membership on who they find valuable from the vendors. And then we reach out and we partner with new people based on member feedback also of who they'd like to have discounts from and who's making change, who's kind of the trendsetters in the industry and things like that. So we listen to member feedback on everything. We can't assume that just because we think it's going to be a good fit for our membership, we have to navigate that fine line. Prescribing where we think the industry is going to go, and here's a future partner that's going to help you with that, but also listening to where they are currently at to meet their current needs, so they can trust us to understand that if they're meeting our current need, we can trust them to know that they're going to also meet our future needs as things start to change. So you kind of have to balance that. You have to show them you have the expertise to understand what's going to happen in the future, but also meet them where they're at. And that's, one of the things to give you an example of that is, like I said, right now, a good majority of our membership is single owner, 2 or 3 people working together maximum. But we are seeing a trend in the industry, like most businesses, where what we call multi-inspector firms, and those will be more than just a single proprietor You're going to have 5 or 6 people start to work together or come under the umbrella of a larger organization, just because it allows for, like anything, synergy, right? So then you can provide more services. You can get people who are experts in different areas and have them all work together to create an organization that's able to meet the needs of not just 80% of the clientele, but now 95% of the clientele, right? So we're going to have to figure out as an organization, how do we provide value for multi-inspector firms, not just the single owner. And those are the things that we have to juggle and question with now, is as the landscape of the industry starts to shift, as all businesses, and because shifting business and political climates are always there, how do we also as an association adjust to meet the needs of what is similar to but different enough from what we've serviced in the past 20 years or so?
Wow, that's really interesting. Going back to that, so the vendor part of it, or those partners,
Sure.
how do you guys monetize that? I mean, is it like a membership, or do you guys try to get that's what it is?
Yeah, correct. We have affiliate memberships where they pay something per year and they get involved. They also have reporting. We are one of the associations, just based on member survey and feedback. We still have a monthly the ASHI Reporter, which goes out to a large database of people that's actually both digital and printed. We send out a printed issue of the magazine to those who subscribe. It's included as a membership benefit, but we have vendors who just advertise in there. We have members who sponsor events. We have vendors who just buy exhibit booths at the Inspection World. We also have, like you said, a membership which incorporates different parts of this. We have e-newsletters, first thing and another thing, and you'll see people start to advertise separately in that or as part of a package. So we do monetize it. Now, the one thing for us is, and one of the shifts that I want to do is that we don't monetize just for the sake of monetizing it. It has to be something that will offer value to our membership. And in fact, sometimes we juggle, okay, we will take less as an association if it leads to bigger opportunity for our membership. Those are things you have to balance, because that all adds to membership value, which is still a win for us, right? It's still a wonderful win for us if people are staying with us a year or two longer, because they love the discount we get or the affiliate partnership that we have. That's a better win for us than getting the whatever, X amount of dollars up front from a company, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Taking a step back, because I was going to ask you, like the surveys, how are you incentivizing those?
So here's one of the things we did, and it's very basic, and I learned this from how we would incentivize people to do survey feedback from, at that time, let's say, 300 millennial students at a startup school, right?
Yeah.
So what we would do is, it's like anybody, enter the survey. It's all still, unless you want to give your name, things like, we'll get an email, we'll do a random drawing, 5 people will win the latest iPad or things like that. Now, for home inspectors, why they love the iPads, they take the tablets with them on their inspections, right?
Right.
They take the pictures, they store, they type notes real fast. So that really incentivize them to come. The other things we've done is gift cards and things like that. I don't tie it typically to, and I know a lot of memberships think like, well, it's easier to just offer something through the membership itself, right?
Right.
Like a free seat at this, but I found that when you do that, you get people who are already loyalists to you, because those are the incentives that they want, right?
Sure.
But I also want the feedback of people on the fringe who aren't necessarily all in with your association, who are just members because somebody told them to, or it's a thing you do. I want that feedback. That is as important to me as those who already, quote unquote, drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to incentivize them with things outside of what the association already offers, or something special with the association, because that's not going to draw them to want to fill out that survey. So I want those, those odd voices out there, so we can get that and get a good subset of our membership that is diverse in thought, opinion, and philosophy on just how the association is. So that's why we do things outside of just the typical association. Oh, you can win a free registration to our conference, or those things are great and that's fine, but those are people who are already kind of feeling you.
Right, sure.
They're already in. They're already all in.
Sure.
So we did things like iPads. We've done gift cards, and honestly, the price that we pay for that to get that kind of unfiltered data
Oh
is
yeah.
more than worth it for me. The data
Yeah.
is so valuable. And especially if you can use that to extrapolate out information or go back and try to clarify some statements that have been, and even to just test your survey itself. Was it a good survey? And understand like, well, the questions I got, the answers we received, they kind of don't point in any direction. We've got to rethink and reformulate how we come up with these surveys.
Interesting.
So
What are you guys using for those surveys?
we've been simply just using SurveyMonkey.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Believe it or not. So we've
Love
been
it.
building those out and working out with it. You know, one of the things that we've done is in the website, we have a consultant who's helped us in the process of how to formulate opinions. So for the website, just to give you an example, we did both the online survey, which got the number of results, but we also did about 20 in person phone
Wow.
calls and things like that, just to get some feedback and um, from, like I said, a diverse spectrum
That's
across
interesting.
that association. Yeah.
So other platforms, like obviously you guys are doing a lot with the website. You guys are determining what's going to be free, what's going to be behind the curtain, so to speak. Like, are you guys actively, drumming up conversations on live platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook or things like that?
So we have started to work our way into social media. One of the things that, social media, just like anything else, has to have a strategy. It
Yeah.
needs to fill in, it has to have a voice that both fits and echoes or amplifies the current voice of the association, right? So you just can't willy-nilly just go on social media and say, hey, here's what's going on. So we've kind of taken a pause and are resetting our approach both in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on what we're going to do. It's been a larger part of the process since I've come in of who are our key constituencies, which we're trying to get the message across to. How do we represent our brand? And how do we communicate our brand's message? And I told you about the four groups the constituencies that we're looking at, right?
Hmm.
The current members, prospective members, consumers, and the referral sources such as realtors and such. So we've kind of had to figure out how we're going to hit each of those constituencies at what frequency with what message, right? One thing that a lot of associations do in my study, and one thing Ashley did, we kind of throw everything against the wall to see what sticks. And so rather than having targeted messages for this constituency, we kind of embrace everything at once. And so you get
Yeah.
this very convoluted, gigantic message, which really doesn't fall in anyone's ears. But
Yeah.
we feel like it connects it connects with those guys with this line, it connects with those guys with this line, and this group is really excited about this line, but it's really just a lot of nothing amplified out. So we're looking at Facebook. The one thing we did with our demographic, they live on Facebook. A good number of our association members live on Facebook. So we do broadcast events through there. We do talk about just technical questions and things we usually take through Facebook. We have an online forum too, which, believe it or not, does get a number of questions.
Hmm.
And answers right away because we've got some experts working on those things. So we have our own online platform through the forum, which is behind the wall that you said. But one of the things is that we're actually opening that up, that's searchable to anyone. So when you're asking what's
Hmm.
behind the paid wall, what's not, one of the changes we've made in the past 2 months or 3 months is opening that content for the world to see the wonderful questions you're able to ask and the technical insight you'll get when you're a member at ASHI to see what's on that forum. So we've opened that up to the general public and put that out there. But we have also started to look at what is our social media voice going to be like? How do we approach it? And are we going to, as an association, just always be in social media, or have a deliberate plan with what we're going to communicate on a regular basis to these four constituencies?
Yeah. Wow. It's really interesting, man. You've got your hands full for sure.
Absolutely.
In a good way. I mean, it's impressive. I got to tell you, like, I guess so you're doing the print piece as well,
Yeah.
which I love. Are you guys measuring that? Like, have you guys, I guess, how do you know that that's worth it?
That's a wonderful question. So most of the time, we're sending to a larger audience than just our membership with it itself, right? It's one of those things where, you're going to have to measure it based on the responses you get to both articles and things like that, the letters we get, the
Hmm.
response. So you have to take into account staff time. You have to take into account the actual printing cost, the
Yeah,
postage cost, and what is the return on investment on all of that, because that is money spent and time
sure.
which you won't get back. So when we did the survey, we did see that people like the printed copies of this trade journal. They carry it with them in their trucks and where they're going, and they keep
Yeah.
it, they read it on their breaks, and they like that feel of a physical magazine in their hands. Because one of the things we did look at was, do we go all digital with it, right? Because the cost savings from it is immeasurable.
Yeah.
It's also just, it's great for the planet, right? You're not spending as, you're not wasting as much you know paper. So we looked at it. It's not to say that in 3 to 5 years we may not move to that completely, to being completely digital. However, just based on the feedback from the membership, on
Yeah.
so the membership team has a list of calls which they do at different points in the membership, and they ask different questions, and they get that feedback. We do those those surveys, and we find out that that membership really does appreciate it. And one of those things, does it keep people renewing their membership, right?
Hmm.
And so if it does, then that has to be factored into that cost, because year over year staying in membership because of something like that, you have to take that into account. But from a dollar standpoint, you're right, it does look like a big investment.
I mean, and I love it. Like, I mean, I don't have any specific data to support this, but for me, it makes a huge difference. There's something about getting something that feels real and tangible. And
Correct.
like you said, from a member retention standpoint, and again, I have no data to support this,
Sure, of
but
course.
just as a consumer, like that's something you really recognize, like, oh, this isn't showing up anymore.
Right.
Something about when you're
Right.
getting a magazine or something, you just get used to it. And I'm the same way. Like I get stuff where there's a couple of companies that do it really well. I mean, I'm not going to name them, but they send out, information still in a traditional
Sure.
newsletter format.
Yeah.
And I will take that thing with me. And I don't know what it is. It's just convenient. It feels like more than it really is.
Right.
And it's amazing how overlooked that is. But one thing that I do see, and I want to ask you, do you guys have a specific strategy with that to merge the two? Do you give them like teasers in the newsletter that they have to go online to kind of dive deeper?
That's a good question. We haven't done it to the extent that we should.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're going to start to unveil that, we are redoing our education portal. It'll be launched in a few weeks. So in order for them to actually do it, we will put the teasers in the physical paper itself, like
Mm-hmm.
the periodical that they get, but they'll have to go online to see the new advantages and benefits and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's the first part where we're doing it with the online portal, but it is something that we're talking about with the new website. How do we drive traffic back and forth, or get them onto that website and see how wonderful it is, and see the resources available to them, the searchability and things like that. For the education portal that we're redoing, we're completely redoing the organization. We're tagging everything so people can search by topic,
Hmm.
by state credit. So things that will make it easier for them to search. We're going to give some of those teases in the ASHI Reporter, but in order for them to actually take full advantage, they'll have to go online and go into the education portal to see it. But
Wow.
I've seen it done well by organizations where they do hey, here's where we are going to now offer you something via, here's is to see the rest of this or take advantage of it. A lot of that is content driven.
Yes.
So for instance, if you're going to do something like that, it can't be just the rest of an article.
Right.
Who cares, right? It's got to be something more tangible. So for
Yes.
instance, if you're giving a marketing article on how to change your online profile, right?
Right.
So if hey, come onto our website, we have 5 templates that you can use.
Yeah.
Then it'll drive them towards that because that's interactive and they have to use it, right?
Yeah.
To finish out the last paragraph of a article that they've already mainly got what they needed from it, that's not going to work. So you've got to be really deliberate about how you're going to match the tangible paper in their hand with what at times feels intangible when you're jumping online, but is as tangible based on who you're dealing with. So we've got to, we as an organization are trying to focus on how do we make that connection and that jump, which also drives traffic to the website, which will drive organic search and things like that. So, and also will drive them to, to what we hope, subscribe to different social media channels so they can get it. The one thing that we're trying to do is show that, you get this magazine once a month, chock full of incredible information that will be beneficial to you. And it is beneficial to our membership and the readership of that. However, we have a lot more that's available all throughout the month at these different points. If you jump on our different channels, whether it's a YouTube video we put up or, different things. But, the thing is, honestly, with a lot of the cross section, we see that a lot of people overpromise and underdeliver. So tell you, hey, let's go. But you then have to stay relevant and fresh on the content that you're showing on the website. You also need to ensure that there is something unique and different than what they're going to get in their monthly newsletter or the monthly periodical, I should say, or the monthly newsletters that they're getting. So that's the challenge for us, I think, like any organization.
Yeah, it's I've seen it done so many ways. I mean, I'm just a huge proponent of print, and I'm a digital guy, but I love it because it is. I mean, like if you want to get someone's attention, man, I mean, you do print right, and it works very, very well. If you guys are mailing that out to even like just random people that are not members, whether they be sponsors or otherwise, I've seen it done very effectively with obviously remarketing, because remarketing is very cheap, relatively speaking.
Sure.
Where it's an easy identifier, so if you're driving people to that thing of, what is the membership like, or whatever the content piece would be,
right?
They've landed there, they're interested in that, and then remarketing to them to kind of drive them into a membership. Very smart. And that can, drive up the ROI. It's like you're mailing it out. Where can you get the biggest bang for the buck?
Right.
And usually integrating the digital with the print, I mean, done right. And the beauty of what you guys are doing is you're way ahead of, I mean, you guys got a lot going on, man. That website sounds like, I don't know who's running that, who's doing that, but boy, oh boy, does that sound like a project.
It has, and it is, and it's still going on. So yes, absolutely.
Well, awesome, man. I want to be respectful of your time. I love it. I could go on. I could tell already. I could talk to you for another hour. I guess, is there anything, and this may be a strange question, but I'm going to ask you anyway, like, is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you?
It's a great question. You've asked me great questions. I think that the one thing that I would, the piece of advice that I would leave is that associations are businesses just like any other business, right? And it starts with trust and accountability. So how do you motivate your team to continue to service the membership in a way they need to? You need to ensure that you trust your team enough to be able to be motivated to continue to look for ways to add value to membership. Because without membership value, we are a client-based service, just like any other business out there. And so the one thing that I have ensured, one change that I've made since I've come is to ensure that we understand that our membership, it has its, there are requirements you need to do in order to become an ASHI member. But that doesn't mean that we have to behave in a way that acts like, well, you have to get these requirements. Let's kind of help people hit the requirement. Let's be teachers, let's be educators, let's be trainers to help people understand how they can continue to get into ASHI and to rise among the ranks and be a support and create community within the association staff itself. So that community kind of overflows into the general membership. So I think it all starts with community with associations. It's what start associations. And I think it's what's going to keep associations strong, as long as we just learn that we have to redefine community with each up and coming generation.
Man, that's awesome. And I can't appreciate, I thank you so much. I mean, I can probably just roll my window down and scream, thank you. You're probably but last thing, I'm just looking at my notes only because it's important. I just want you to share a little bit about the foundation and what you guys are doing there.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. So the Ashley Foundation was relaunched in October of this past year, in 2018. And it's a unique change in Ashley's governance model. The executive director, actually is chairman of the board. So I work with the team. I get to appoint some of the members of the board, and it has been fantastic. We wanted to see how we can make a splash in each of the cities where we have our annual conference, because we bring about 1,200 people in, right? We're also we're guests, right? And we want to be good guests.
Yeah.
So what we decided this past January was we were able to, in a short amount of time, partner with Homes for Our Troops. They were working on Homes for Our Troops works with those who are severely injured in the overseas or in service in military service for our behalf. And actually has a number of veterans also within our membership. So we partnered with Homes for Our Troops. We had an initial goal of hopefully raising $15,000 at our national annual conference to gift Senator Joseph Polk. He's the serviceman who was being gifted on this, because they were breaking ground on his house in San Diego, where our conference was, just a week from when our conference ended. So we want to see how much money we could bring up quickly. So we brought it up at the annual meeting and the foundation with the relaunch and all those things. We doubled within 3 days. We not only raised $15,000, we raised over $30,000 for this project. The amazing thing was that, we had about, I think at this past conference, we had close to 1,100 total attendees. But here's what's awesome. It wasn't just membership or staff. Our vendors, our partners, our invited guests, our speakers, everyone gave towards this goal. And anytime anyone saw me, it was my first annual conference as the executive director, and I'm pretty new. So not only they want to know about me, the first question I'm out is, how are we doing? How much have we raised? And we built it out in such a way that people could text to give. We'd get instantaneous results on how much had been raised. And we were able to gift that foundation, the Homes for Our Troops, with over $30,000. As chairman of the board, it was a fascinating and fantastic journey to be able to run a foundation that was able to raise that much in a short amount of time, but also the whole process of vetting charities and finding out which ones do we want to give to. And Homes for Our Troops was fantastic, because you looked at their financials and you looked at, the charity watchdog groups, and they had the highest of high marks. And I got to be honest, veterans are people that are taken advantage of by, unscrupulous charities. And so be able to partner with Homes for Our Troops, the relaunch of that was fantastic. We are in the process of vetting which charity we're going to partner with for New Orleans in 2020, because New Orleans has a number of needs, whether it's education, whether it's shelter, whether it's also partnering with a veteran organization. Again, there are a number of things out there that we're going to be able to give. So we're at ashleyfoundation.org, and that's fantastic. We're at Ashley, ashley.org is our main website, but Ashley Foundation is its own thing, and it's become this wonderful thing, because our members, like I said, they are backbones of their community, and they give not only of themselves but their finances for causes that are bigger than themselves. And to be able to find something that they could willingly and lovingly participate with was fantastic. And we are really proud of the work the Ashley Foundation has done in such a short time.
I mean, dude, it's human,
right? Absolutely.
It's this is just great. Like, just listening to you talk about it is like, you're at least as passionate about that as you are running the organization, which
Absolutely.
I think it's a beautiful thing, man. It really is. It's inspiring. Man, it's just good for you guys. That's pretty sweet. Pretty cool gig. Well, man, that's all I have for you. I can't thank you enough. I mean, we've spent almost an hour. Holy cow.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So, I hope to connect with you for sure offline. Stay in touch, anything that I can do for you. But you guys are doing great things out there. And yeah, man, thanks for sharing what you guys are doing. And maybe we'll do a follow-up in a year or so and just kind of see how things have progressed. But nice work, man. Nice work.
No, I appreciate it. Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. And it was an honor and a pleasure to get to know you and also to get to work with you in this behalf. And I look forward to, partnering together with you in other endeavors down the line.
Always. I appreciate you.